but Mr. Levine has promised to be speedy in his presentation of his bill today.
Just my name, my organization, and that I support my bill.
This is AB 1150.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. AB 1150 will help the University of California to achieve greater energy efficiency by expanding the existing Energy Efficiency Partnership Program. This bill would allow large investor-owned utilities and the small publicly owned utilities to participate in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levine.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we're out in the hallway. Jason Murphy on behalf of the University of California. We're the sponsors of the bill. As the author just noted, we are seeking a expansion of our existing partnership programs. These are the programs that the university uses to get towards our significant energy efficiency goals. And with me today, I have a colleague, Eric Aberhart, the Associate Director in our Energy Services Unit, to give a few more details of the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you all for taking the time. As you may have read, our partnership with the University of California, the investor-owned utilities, and the CSU system has been in place since 2004. We've had some pretty significant accomplishments through the partnership. Over about 10 years, we've accomplished 265 million kilowatt hours, 14.5 million therms, which equates to roughly 24,000 average American homes in savings alone. And through that program, we've been awarded roughly 64 million in incentives through the IOU incentive programs. So this has been a real driver for our carbon reduction efforts, and the primary interest from us is really our President's initiative for carbon neutrality by 2025, in addition to the state's goals around carbon reduction through AB 32. So we're really aligned with the state here, and we want to...
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Anyone else wish to speak in support of this bill? Hello?
Olivia Regalia on behalf of Sierra Club California in support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Is there anyone in opposition to this bill? Any questions? There don't appear to be any. Would you like to close, Mr. Levine?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Levine. We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Eggman, and a second from Ms. Burke. Please take the roll.
The motion is due pass, and we refer to Higher Education Committee. Rendon?
Aye.
Rendon, aye. Patterson?
Aye.
Patterson, aye. Ashajian? Bonilla?
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Burke?
Aye.
Burke, aye. Daly?
Aye.
Daly, aye. Eggman?
Aye.
Eggman, aye. Christina Garcia?
Aye.
Garcia, aye. Hadley?
Aye.
Hadley, aye. Roger Hernandez?
Aye.
Hernandez, aye. Jones? Quirk?
Aye.
Quirk, aye. Santiago?
Aye.
Santiago, aye. Ting? Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. 12-0.
It just snuck out, Mr. Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thank you, great job.
Mr. Bloom, AB 1330.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Energy efficiency is the first call of the state's loading order before procurement of renewable energy and conventional power. It's also the cheapest source of power, and every megawatt we conserve is one that doesn't need to be purchased later. However, energy conservation, much like water conservation, is also arguably our most overlooked resource. Unlike renewable energy, there is no tangible bar set for achievement, and unlike conventional power, the default position is not that we will purchase it at any price. And as a result, energy efficiency, which is largely on the demand side of the meter, has not been meaningfully factored into the state's long-term energy planning process. This bill would change that and sets a conservative but tangible goal for achievement of energy efficiency in the state. That goal is at least 1.5% of the state's current peak by 2020 and at least 2% by 2025. This goal is inclusive of what the utilities already do in the ratepayer-funded programs, and through these programs, the IOUs cumulatively already achieve in the 1.5% range in load savings. However, a tangible goal will create accountability for those programs. It also makes those achievements more countable, if you will, for the state's long-term planning so that investments in those programs actually result in less power being purchased. 95% of energy efficiency expenditures are allocated towards current building stock. So this goal also dovetails nicely with what the governor proposed in his State of the State address. In the opposition testimony today, you might hear that utilities need flexibility rather than mandates. However, utilities currently receive $1 billion in ratepayer dollars for energy efficiency programs. This bill requires that system to achieve a conservative savings goal that translates into fewer power purchases for the state. In short, this bill proposes a tangible work product for our ratepayers' investment. I appreciate the staff, the chair and staff's work on this bill and accept the following amendments in the analysis that were recommended, or requested, I should say. On page 4 of the analysis relating to the suggestion that existing language related to demand response be replaced with language specifying that the CPUC and publicly owned utilities shall establish and report on an annual target for demand response. And on page 5.7 in the analysis, there were 6 clarifying suggested amendments that are also accepted. Even though energy efficiency is undeniably the cheapest resource when compared to power purchases, with these amendments, the Commission may exercise a cost off-ramp and halt energy efficiency expenditures before reaching the target. So there's an additional protection in there. These amendments will also provide greater flexibility to the utilities in achieving the goal by removing the requirement that 25% of the resources go to disadvantaged communities, and instead, in order to achieve an appropriate goal, the bill will require savings to come from disadvantaged communities first, much like a loading order. So that's the first place that utilities will turn to under the bill. I have with me today Anthony Harrison and Steve Schiller, both with California Energy Efficiency Industry Council, who wish to speak in support and answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Moon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Tiffany White, and on behalf of the Energy Efficiency Industry Council, and we're the sponsors of the bill. The Energy Efficiency Industry Council is a 70-plus member trade association that provides energy efficiency services and products around the state and employs thousands of Californians. We'd just like to thank the author for bringing this bill forward. AB 1330 establishes an energy efficiency resource standard that is critical to meeting the governor's overarching climate goals, as well as makes the grid more reliable by bringing greater certainty to planners regarding the minimum level of efficiency to expect every year. Though broad targets have been set, there currently are no specific requirements that would drive and ensure the adoption of demand-side energy resources such as energy efficiency and demand response, and AB 1330 will do just that. By setting an achievable goal as the floor, AB 1330 will move the state beyond its current level of achievable energy savings through energy efficiency and demand response, and would save more than $10 billion in utility bills over the period of 2015 to 2030. We have here today Steve Schiller, founder of the Energy Efficiency Industry Council, to answer any technical questions that you may have, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this? No, I'm sorry. Actually, let me get more supporters, please. Just name and affiliation, please, and position on the bill.
We're support. If amended. We'd like to see third-party administration clarified that third parties can do EE programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Mr. Chair, members, Brian Early on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund in support. We look forward to working with the author to highlight the role that demand response can play in integrating renewables. Thank you.
Please hold that mic, please.
Thank you. My name is Steve Schiller, as Tiffany indicated. I'm the original chair of the Energy Efficiency Industry Council, and I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members for the opportunity to speak in favor of the bill today. Efficiency is our first mentioned, but unfortunately it's also our first forgotten resource. As Assemblymember Bloom and the committee analysis note, for all the state's leadership in greenhouse gas reduction programs and energy issues, unlike many other states, we lack a definitive goal for that which most cost-effectively reduces Californians' energy bills and our greenhouse gas footprint, its energy efficiency. In 2013, states with energy efficiency resource like this bill calls for achieved about 4 times as much energy savings as states without such policies. And the EERS drives action. It drives action, and if the legislature sets the goal, the necessary interpretations will come. Efficiency is our cheapest resource. It provides benefits for consumers and good local jobs. And the alternative to efficiency is not the same or less efficiency. It's wasting energy and having Californians purchase more expensive supply-side resources. And the question really becomes, is compared to what? And while Californians invest in efficiency and have some of the nation's most stringent new building standards, there's a clear need to better quantify our efforts. And this legislation provides the incentives to our agencies and to our utilities to more rigorously document the investments that Assemblymember Bloom mentioned and report the results out. This sends a clear message to the consumers, to the contractors, the Air Board, the ISO, that they can count on efficiency as a resource. Some of you have been concerned about the costs. The bill, as proposed now, has been amended with Assemblymember Bloom's support to have a cost off-ramp similar to what is used, or actually very similar to what was used for the RPS. And I want to note that, by the way, that RPS provision has never been needed. In terms of the goals, we had suggested these goals, although really a floor to the author's office based on a review of California's past performance, review of California's energy efficiency potential studies, and a review of other states' achievements and goals, including 3 states that actually have an energy efficiency resource standard that's
Can you
higher.
summarize your remarks, please?
Yes. And so in summary, I just want to say that we believe the targets are realistic, achievable, and support the governor's 50% efficiency efforts, and we believe they're doable. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.
Olivia Regalia for Sierra Club California in support.
Thank you.
Victoria Rome with Natural Resources Defense Council in support.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this bill? Probably need 3 seats, maybe. Yeah, come on up. Do you need more than 3 seats? Okay, that's fair. Hello.
Thank you, Chairman Rendon, members of the committee. Nick Pappas with Southern California Edison. Respectfully, we are opposed to the bill. At SCE, we're very proud of our long history of helping our customers save energy and save money through our energy efficiency programs. In fact, last year, we were awarded the 2014 Energy Star Sustained Excellence Partner of the Year Award for those energy efficiency programs. I also want to state that we appreciate the author's enthusiasm for expanding energy efficiency. Frankly, we share that enthusiasm, and we're working with the legislature and the Public Utilities Commission to address some of the barriers that exist today to expanding some of the existing energy efficiency programs. Unfortunately, AB 1330 sets arbitrary efficiency and demand response targets without addressing some of those barriers and without regard to feasibility and cost effectiveness. Unfortunately, we must oppose setting statutory targets for those resources without a better understanding of what's available in the marketplace, what's feasible, and what's cost effective. I want to thank the author for taking the amendment, particularly related to demand response. With that, thank you. We ask for your no vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Gil Topidi. I am the Energy Director for the California Municipal Utilities Association. So since 2006, our members also have spent over $1 billion in energy efficiency programs in their service territories. It's just that not all publicly owned utilities are the same size, the same stripe, the same customer base. We have some utilities that are more commercial, some that are more residential, and a more traditional blend of what you would think of. Some of these members, sometimes the very largest members, can already achieve right now on their SB 1037 report to the CEC on their annual energy efficiency targets. Some right now are achieving 1.5% reductions in their total load through energy efficiency. Some others are struggling to that. So on average, the reporting that we do to the CEC represents about 1%. So we're a little bit worried about when you set a definitive target, what that's going to mean to some utilities that, by and large, energy efficiency programs are voluntary programs. If they have cost limits to them, then they're limited. You just can't say, not only will I give you the free refrigerator, I'm going to put $1,000 in that freezer when you get it. That might lure more customers to it, but that's not how these programs are designed. You can offer them, hopefully you market them very effectively, and you get customers wanting to access those programs. But if they don't want them, if they don't want to save, I can't make them do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll allow one more opposition witness.
Mario DiBernardo from the Northern California Power Agency. I agree with everything that the representative from CMUA stated. There are several factors outside utilities control, and unfortunately, AB 1330 doesn't address those in its current form. We have an annual report that comes out every year that explains what our programs are doing with the publicly owned utilities and how to increase participation. We've identified a number of factors that can be addressed, and we've shared the report with the author's office, and if this bill moves forward, we'll look forward to working with the author and the sponsor on incorporating those measures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Blix with the Independent Energy Producers Association, also in opposition.
Mr. Chair, Tamara Raspberry from San Diego Gas and Electric. I am a tweener, if I may. Okay. So while we appreciate the author's efforts to make strides in energy efficiency and the sponsors, what we are concerned with is that, as stated earlier by Edison, that the bill establishes specific energy efficiency targets without the benefit of an open and transparent process to determine which targets are most effective and feasible given market conditions. We also have a concern with the amendment requiring that, like the member said, a loading order so that energy efficiency savings must first be achieved in disadvantaged communities. We believe that there may be an instance where we bust the cap of our energy efficiency dollars and we would not have dollars available for other parts of our community. Thank you.
Okay, so we've heard from opponents, we've heard from supporters, we've heard from tweeners. Now let's just have name and affiliation and position on this bill, please.
Okay. Valerie Vlahos, PG&E. We have no position.
Okay. That's a fourth category, I guess.
I guess. Connie Stewart, California Center for Rural Policy. We're a tweener as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the author? Mr. Quirk?
I have a question for the opposition. Could I hear from Gil Dupati as
someone from the opposition, please?
As the so I appreciate that there could be problems reaching the goal, and in particular, in the studies that have been done, it's found that, for example, heating and cooling, you do much better if you've got people in the Central Valley where there's a lot higher use of energy than if you have people, say, in San Diego. In San Diego, it's probably going to be much harder than it will be for, say, PG&E in the Central Valley, but it'll be difficult for PG&E on the coastal communities as well. So nonetheless, though, there is an off-ramp for this. And given that there's an off-ramp, is there some other way that this off-ramp could be developed so that you would, boy, it's really strange when people open the doors. Is there some way this off-ramp could be developed in a way that you and perhaps the investor-owned utilities could then support the bill?
I'd say, of course, there's a way. We're not saying we're not willing to work with the author at all on achieving an outcome that I think is mutually inclusive. I think for us right now, again, in developing yet another standard, another specific number, maybe if we can think beyond that, have the CEC or CARB say they want to develop, and some of this language does speak to that, develop an annual target to be reached, and then leave it to us on the best ways that we can use our local programs, local marketing strategies to achieve that, because even for CMUA members, believe it or not, there are some members who have none of the disadvantaged community by definition. We have poor communities, but we don't have this exact same by definition disadvantaged communities in some of my members. So I think we can show and say we want to achieve more, but we're also worried about when you set a specific number, doesn't that usually then turn into an enforcement mechanism? What if you didn't achieve that goal in that year? And then specific to CARB setting its annual target, I'm not clear if the amendments say they just need to do that once, or will they do that annually? And so every year maybe this target gets ratcheted a little bit more, as maybe it should. But if we're getting more and more of our power from renewable resources, and should we reach the 2030 goal of it being 50% renewable resources, and then maybe the goal is stretched out a little bit longer after that, now we're talking about a future where maybe the majority, or if not more than that, is from emissions-free resources, is curtailing that use of as big a significance as saying, go ahead and use it, folks, because it's emissions free. It's greenhouse gas neutral. Our buildings will be that way. So I wouldn't say we're not for energy efficiency. We're very for that. We need to do it now, and we will still continue with these programs going forward. But I'm kind of asking for maybe a full reevaluation of where our goals are out into the future and how we want to get there. That includes the POU's ability to achieve that in coordination with the CEC and CARB as opposed to set limits. Thank you.
So I guess at the moment I am willing to see go forward, but I think a lot of concerns have been raised. I know Mr. Bloom very well, and I'm sure he will look at them. With that said, I'm going to move the bill.
A motion from Mr. Quirk and a second from Ms. Garcia. I know Ms. Burke has a question, and then Mr. Hadley.
I'm really quick. I just wanted to thank Assemblymember Bloom for the provision for disadvantaged communities, because so often disadvantaged communities don't get to participate in energy efficiency opportunities because they are financially out of reach for them. And so I just really want to thank you as someone who represents a disadvantaged community for including us in this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Mr. Hadley?
Question for the author, Mr. Bloom. Thank you for bringing this forward. Just for my edification, what is the sanction? What is the cost? What is the fine? What is the penalty? What are the implications of not meeting the numerical targets?
I believe that would be up to the agencies to determine, is my understanding.
So, I don't know why we'd stop at 2% then. Thank you.
That would be the same scenario that exists with the RPS. At least that's my understanding. It's also my understanding that there's never been a fine levied under the RPS system, which is working quite well.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Other questions? Would you like to close, Mr. Bloom?
Yes, I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. We have a motion from Mr. Quirk and a second from Ms. Garcia. Please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended and re-referred to the Appropriations Committee.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's the motion. That's also the chair's recommendation.
Rendon?
Aye.
Rendon, aye. Patterson? No. Patterson, no. Ashajian? Bonilla? Burke? Aye. Burke, aye. Daly? Eggman? Christina Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Hadley?
No.
Hadley, no. Hernandez? Jones? Quirk?
Aye.
Quirk, aye. Santiago? Ting? Williams? Aye. Williams, aye.
It's 5-2. You need a few more votes. We'll keep the roll open.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Mr. Nazarian is up. Mr. Nazarian is up next. That would be AB 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Do you want to take a seventh inning stretch at this point, or
Yeah,
you
we'll
want to
keep
work
going.
through? Good.
We'll bore on through.
Good. Well, thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to accept the recommended amendments suggested on page 4 of the committee analysis.
Thank you.
AB 24 is a public safety bill. This measure reinforces a minimum set of safety standards by requiring all drivers of charter party carriers, such as limousines, buses, and transportation network companies, to 1, be enrolled in the DMV Employer Pull Notice Program, and 2, participate in a drug and alcohol testing program. Additionally, AB 24 requires TNCs to register any vehicle used under its platform with the PUC and requires the vehicle to display a suitable PUC-issued identifying symbol. Time and time again, we have heard opponents argue that regulation and any law will threaten app-based transportation and stifle innovation. AB 24 does not jeopardize app-based transportation companies, nor does it apply any regulations to the technology behind this emerging industry. What AB 24 does do, however, is set 3 minimum safety standards when transporting people that do not go beyond what is in current practice for transportation companies in this state. Just want to make sure. I'm going to repeat that last part because it's very important. Does not go beyond what is in current practice for transportation companies in this state. The DMV pull notice sends immediate alerts of driver DUI and moving violations. AB 24 ensures that the DMV qualifies a driver of a charter party carrier, including TNCs, in the employer pull notice program through enabling language in the bill. Currently, TNCs are required to implement a zero-tolerance policy. However, the drivers are not tested if there is a complaint or an accident due to the driver being intoxicated. The driver is then terminated. AB 24 will require a drug testing program to ensure that commercial drivers are not driving while intoxicated. Currently, charter party carriers are required to register each of their vehicles and display an identifying symbol on those vehicles in order to receive an operating permit from the PUC. Similarly, to increase transparency, accountability, and safety, AB 24 will require TNCs to comply with these same requirements, just maintaining the same standard. A series of high-profile incidents involving TNC drivers accused of assaulting, kidnapping, drug charges, harassing, and stealing from passengers has made the issue of public safety that much more important. Public safety should be the legislators' first priority, our first priority. AB 24 will give the statutory authority needed to promote the safety of our constituents and all Californians. With me are Mr. Aaron Reed with the California Highway Patrol, Barry Broad, Mr. Broad with the Teamsters, and Jim Lights or Sarah Johnson with the California Airport Council, Christopher Quinn with the Greater California Livery Association.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of people who want to speak on this bill. If we could have the witnesses limit their comments to 2 minutes, be great.
Yes, no problem. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Aaron Reed, representing the California Association of Highway Patrolmen. In my 38 years with them, they've always made it a hallmark of public safety, protecting the public. That's what they do. And they do it millions of times each year. They have contacts with the public. They're concerned about safety of public, and they support this bill very strongly. I won't go over the arguments why pull notices impair drivers, whether it's alcohol or drugs, are serious matters to them. They see it every day on the road. So we're here to lend our full support to AB 24. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, thank you for having me here today. Christopher Quinn, I represent the Greater California Livery Association. We're here in support of this. I am as well kind of in a unique situation. I'm a 28-year member of public safety as well, own a company in the state of California conducting ground transportation. This is asking nothing more than is asked of all ground transportations for hire in the state of California currently. This is asking for parity, that the TNCs will have to abide by the same laws that we've had to abide by since, well, prior to my founding of my company in 2003. I've heard it said today, and I've heard it said often, how exciting this new technology is. I don't think there's anybody in this room, myself included, that's going to say that technology is not exciting, and we don't want to hamper those efforts in the state of California being a hub for technology. What has not changed since the time of that technology is the end user portion and the customer that gets in that car. It still is a 3,000-pound automobile. It still has a driver, and it's still doing it for profit. I keep hearing shared ride. This almost implies that there's 2 or 3 of us sharing the cost to go down to the Bay Area for a meeting or for work. In this particular case, it's not shared ride, it's for-profit ride or for hire. And the TNC should have to comply, just like the rest of us in the state of California have been, ongoing. And this should be absolutely no different as a matter of public policy. The public expects that. They expect that when they get in one of my town cars or vans or buses, and they expect that when they get in an Uber, a Lyft, or a sidecar vehicle. And they should know that that driver's been vetted appropriately with a pre-employment toxicology screening, perhaps even looking forward to an H6 DMV printout, a 10-year printout that says that that driver does not have a criminal record and that that vehicle's been inspected and appropriately insured to protect passengers in the state of California.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Barry Broad on behalf of the Teamsters as well as the Amalgamated Transit Union and the machinists. Basically all we're doing is applying here the highway safety regulations to drivers and companies that apply to all modes of transportation: trucks, buses, passenger transportation, freight transportation, rail, airlines, you name it. Regardless of technology, the frailty of the human body has not changed, and the frailty of machines have not changed. And people's bodies, they get tired, they're abused sometimes through drugs and alcohol, and it's really critical to protect the public that we have people, for example, in this pull notice program, because what many of you may not know that are new to the legislature and haven't really thought about this is that if you are arrested for a DUI, your license is suspended on the spot administratively before you're ever subjected to a criminal prosecution. So at that point, an employer has no idea that a driver actually is not driving on a valid license. And no employer should want to ever be in that position to be placing a driver in service, or a motor carrier or anybody else should be placing anybody in service that's working for them who isn't driving on a valid driver's license. I mean, that goes without saying. So this is the kind of knowledge that everyone should have. If that happens, if a license is taken away, if a license is invalid, then the motor carrier, whether it's a TNC or a trucking company, should take the driver out of service. And that's critically important for public safety. So this is, I think, a very common sense bill. We urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've heard from 3 main support witnesses. Let's now hear from additional support witnesses. Just your name, affiliation, and position on this bill, please.
Jim Lights, representing the 33 commercial airports in the state, California Airports Council. Airports have done great work in managing access on TNCs in the last year, and we are in strong support. We could have a stronger bill, but we support this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, members, Sarah Flocks, the California Labor Federation, in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry Korngold, San Francisco Taxi Workers Alliance, in strong support of the bill also.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Jason Eichert with Edelstein, Gilbert, Robeson, and Smith on behalf of the San Francisco International Airport in support.
Thank you.
Mark Ruberg, San Francisco taxi driver, in support.
Thank you.
Tara Hausman, San Francisco taxi driver, DeSoto Cab, in strong support of the bill, especially the permanent stickering.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marco Soto with the Taxi Cab Paratransit Association of California. In support of the bill, we'd also like to see the fingerprint background checks in the bill.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's hear from the opposition witnesses. We may need to free up a chair.
I'm sorry, I got into the wrong line.
Sure, come on up real quick, sir.